Hi everyone, welcome. In this video, let's talk about Terraform Backend. Right, so Terraform Backend, this is where we store your Terraform state. Okay, so basically, it's the storage for your Terraform state. Okay, so where are the places you can store your Terraform state? You can store them either locally, remote, or if you are using any cloud provider. For example, if you're using AWS, you can store it in S3. Okay, so let's quickly dive into the practical side of things, and I'll show you where you can store your backend and how to configure it. Okay, so quickly, on your backend, types of backend, or where you can store your backend, you could see them local on your local machine, remote if you are using Azure, so the list goes on. So in this video, we will dive into using of what we call S3, because we've been working with AWS. So let's stick to S3. Okay, so let's go to my uh, IDE, and then we work out from there. So with the Terraform backend, if you are using S3, so you can come here. Remember, we are using S3. Make sure you got the necessary permission to be able to work with S3. Okay, and all you need is, where is that? Where's the example of that? Okay, yeah, this is the data source. Where is the actual config? Okay, yeah, so you need something like that. Okay, so you say your Terraform, and then the backend, you mention the backend type you are using. Okay, which bucket, remember we are using S3, which bucket are you going to store the state? You mention the bucket name. Remember, the bucket needs to exist. The key, that is where in the bucket, which type of folder do you want to store the state. So this is your path. Okay, this can be whatever name you want, but normally based on, let's say, the environment, you can segregate it based on that. Okay, so you can basically put any path here, or if you don't want a path, you can put a single. By that I mean something like that, terraform state.tf, something like that here. Okay, and you need your region, and then you can put a lock on that. Okay, so let's go to my Visual Studio Code and let's do it. Okay, so what we're going to say here, okay, basically I'm going to provision this resource. Okay, I'm using a module, sourcing it from this module called infra IAM, which is my child module. This parent module is going to call my child module. Okay, call that child module. Okay, and then I'm just gonna provision it, provide some output on here too. Okay, right. So for now, if I want to have a backend, if I run this Terraform plan and apply actually without configuring a remote backend or any of the backend, okay, I'm going to have a backend on my local. It will automatically be kept on my local machine. So you do not want this when you are working as a team collaboratively. Okay, again, if you are setting up CI/CD pipeline or anything like that, you do not want to store your Terraform state locally. If you do that, okay, and your teammates are also working and storing their Terraform state locally, okay, it's not gonna work. You're not gonna have a clear reflection of what infrastructure currently exists, because each one of you have your state locally. Okay, and it will be problematic. In the best way going forward is to have your backend stored remotely, basically a shared place where both of you can dip in and out of your Terraform state. You can share collaboratively. By that, you will be singing from basically the same song sheet, so there wouldn't be any issue with your existing infrastructure. So that is the best way forward. So let's configure that. So you can create a separate file, call it backend.tf, right? So let's call this, so backend, and then we add .tf, yeah? So Terraform will know this is the backend. So press enter, okay? And what we are going to do is we are going to say Terraform, okay? And then what are you actually doing? We will say backend, okay? and what type of backend. Can you see? Um, Basically, because of the extension I'm using, it will tell you what kind of backend. If you don't have one, you can install Terraform, okay, as an extension from here. Okay, so what we need is S3. So we say S3, right? The next one is, if it's S3, what bucket do you want to store the state? So we will say bucket. Okay, remember you need to give the bucket name. So I've already created S3 bucket. If you haven't done so, please do one. This bucket needs to exist first before you give the name here. Okay, so the bucket should exist already. So let's go to my S3. So this bucket, which one? So let's use that one. Okay, let me grab the name of the bucket, right? And then I'll put it here. Okay, here. Let's put the bucket name here. Right. That's the bucket name. The next thing is, inside the bucket, what is the name of the folder, or what do you want to name the file as for the state? What is the name do you want to give it to this document? Okay, so we will say the key. Okay, that is the name of the object within the bucket. So we will say should be equal to, and then what is the name? Again, remember, let me show you this quickly. So can you see this? This is a separate one I created. Okay, so any name you give it to it in the backend will be populated here. Okay, can you see? For now you can only see dev. Okay, so let's add something. So here, what we say is the name we want to give to the folder structure or the file. So we will call this QA or something forward slash. So this is the folder structure, and then let's call it. Let's give another one, max, and then forward slash, say Terraform dot tf state. Yeah, it doesn't necessarily has to be like this, but it's better you name it according to what it is. So it's Terraform state. It's gonna be inside this folder, that folder, and then in here we have that. Remember, this key will be populated for you. Okay, will be created for you. Remember, it's not here. Okay, when I provision it, you see it, right? So that is it for the backend with the key. What we need to do, we need to also specify which region, okay, do we have the bucket. Okay, I think this one is Ireland region. Okay, this is where we have the bucket. If you're not too sure, come back to bucket and then look at it. So EU West 1. Okay, so that is EU West 1. So you need to provide the region here. Remember that. Okay, which is EU, and then we will say West 1. Yeah, okay, right. There's always good idea to provide a lock. The lock is meant for when two of you and your colleague are working together. Okay, whoever run Terraform apply first, there will be a lock in such a way that your Terraform state will not be overwritten by the other. Okay, so it's basically is to protect whoever goes in to run your apply first. So you will be locked into that. So um, if you are running on Terraform version 1 point, what was it called? I think 1.10 and above, you should be able to use what we call use. Okay, I think it's use underscore uh, locking. Yeah, but my version is not like that, so I will not be able to use it. But I'm just showing you Terraform hyphen version. So enter. You see, I'm running on 1.54. Okay, so this will not work for me. Okay, what I can use is DynamoDB to lock this. Okay, But I'm showing you if you're running on anything more than 1.10 and over, you can use that. In that case, you do not need to provision DynamoDB and so forth. But let me remove that for now. Okay, right. This should be fine. Okay, so when you set up your backend, you are telling Terraform to put all your Terraform state in this bucket, in this folder structure. So you first have to initialize. Okay, so when you do Terraform init, so initialize, by that you are going to initialize the backend and download all the necessary plugin. Okay, so we go enter on this. You watch it, can you see backend and then S3 initialize? Happy days. Okay, the module 2 is initialized. Okay, so let's give it a minute for it to finish the initialization. Once it's done, we will run, I think we will run apply straight away. Okay, and see what's going to happen. So let's do Terraform. You can run plan and then apply first, but apply will first run plan and then you answer yes to proceed. So Terraform apply. Okay, let's apply this. Okay, so we will say yes to this and then enter. Okay, let's see what's going on here. I am user blah blah blah, create user, respond. So this user already exists. Okay, so let me just change the name. Where is that? So this user already exists, so let's put B. Okay, let's add the extra name to it. So B, let's add B dev. Yeah, and let's do it again. Let's run apply on this. Enter. Okay, and then we're going to respond and say yes, go ahead. Okay, right. So we got the resource being provisioned. Okay, if we have a look at the backend, let's go back to the S3 that holds that. Let's refresh this quickly and see. Right, can you see we got the QA? This is the key path. So the QA and then max. Inside that we have our Terraform state. Basically, this is what the path is about. Where is it? Backend. This is the path, the key. Okay. If you provide the key, it will be created for you. Okay. And then inside that you have your Terraform state. Okay. So if you open, let's try and open this. Let me try and open that. Can you see? This is your Terraform state. Here is stored remotely, so you and your team can work collaboratively. Also, to help you set up your CI/CD pipeline or any automation tool, will be able to use this. Okay, this is not stored locally on my machine, and it doesn't belong to me alone. It's for me and my team. Okay, so that is it for the backend, and this is how we store our Terraform state. Right, in next video what I will do is I will show you how you can migrate, okay, your Terraform state. And then the next video too will be talking about um what is it called, basically we're just going to refactor and then do Terraform state management. Okay, so how we're going to move from, you know, working around Terraform state. Basically that what I'll be working on. I hope this is helpful. Right, keep watching, keep learning, and then I'll see you in our next video. Okay, see you later. Bye bye.